Hey everyone, and welcome back. You ready to dive into something kind of mind-blowing?
Always up for a challenge. What do we have today?
All right, so we're going to be unpacking some serious wisdom bombs from Robert Kiyosaki.
The rich dad, poor dad guru himself. Always good for a thought-provoking listen. What's he got for us this time?
Okay, so we're dissecting this recent podcast episode from The Wealth Catalyst, where he goes deep on, completely flipping the script on how we think about assets and liabilities. Get this? He actually says your house might not be an asset.
Hold on. That's going against, every traditional financial rule in the book. Most people consider their home their biggest investment. How does he back that up?
That's a thing, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't just make these bold claims. He lays out this whole argument about cash flow being the real key to building wealth. And I'm all about that cash flow.
Makes sense. Not just about how much you earn, but how you manage it, right? Exactly. He says most people, even those raking in good salaries, they get stuck in this cycle of their money constantly flowing out towards all the expenses tied to liabilities.
Because, he argues a lot of people, even folks with college degrees, might be missing that core understanding of basic financial terms, and it trips them up. There was this study cited in the podcast, found that a whopping 95% of college graduates maybe don't fully grasp key financial concepts.
95%. Seriously. So even after all that education, they're still kind of lost in the financial wilderness.
That's what Kiyosaki's saying, yeah. And without those foundational financial smarts, it's easy to fall into common money traps without even realizing it. It's like trying to play a game without knowing the rules. You're bound to make some costly mistakes.
Okay, so let's break this down. Define these key financial terms he keeps emphasizing.
He always starts with income. Pretty straightforward. The money coming in, your job, side hustles, anything you're earning from.
All right, income. Got it. Then obviously you got your expenses.
Right, just as straightforward. Money going out, rent, those online shopping sprees, the drill.
Yeah, those definitely add up. But then it gets interesting with assets and liabilities.
And here's where Kiyosaki throws a curveball. He defines an asset as anything that puts more money back in your pocket, essentially making your money work for you, not the other way around.
Like a financial wingman. I like it.
Exactly. And on the flip side, a liability is anything that sucks money out of your pocket, no questions asked. He argues most people misunderstand this concept entirely.
Which brings us back to that whole your house might be a liability thing. How does that work? Isn't a house the classic example of an asset?
So here's the thing. While houses can definitely go up in value over time, that doesn't automatically translate to cold hard cash in your hand right now, right?
Yeah.
In the meantime, there are those constant expenses. Mortgage payments, taxes, insurance, and don't even get me started on surprise repairs.
Yeah.
All of that screams money flowing out, which makes it a liability, according to Kiyosaki.
Okay, so even though it's this big tangible thing we think of as an investment, it might not be working as hard for us as we think.
Exactly. And what's more, Kiyosaki wants us to look at everything we own this way. Your car, those designer shoes, even some investments. Are they truly assets making you money, or are they secretly draining your finances?
So it's all about being really honest with ourselves about where our money's going and why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then shifting our mindset to focus on acquiring assets that actively contribute to our financial growth.
So we've established that Kiyosaki sees this middle-class cash flow trap as this major roadblock to building wealth. But the good news is he actually offers us a way out.
Right. It's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah.
Kiyosaki's big on empowering people to take control of their financial lives.
Which makes me think about those income-generating assets we touched on earlier.
Exactly. Because that's the key to escaping that trap. Shifting your focus from liabilities that drain your money to assets that actively bring in more.
Okay, so instead of constantly trading our time for a paycheck, we need to make our money work harder for us, right?
Exactly. It's about creating a system where your money generates more income, even while you're sleeping or, finally taking that vacation you've been putting off. And that's where passive income comes into play.
Passive income, tell me more. That sounds like the dream, honestly.
Right. And it's not just a pipe dream, it's totally achievable. In the podcast, Kiyosaki gives some solid examples of assets that can help you build that passive income stream.
Okay, so spill the beans. What are some of his go-to income-generating assets?
Well, one that he always comes back to is rental properties. The basic idea is you buy a property, rent it out, and that rent money becomes your passive income.
So instead of blowing your savings on a fancy car that loses half its value the second you drive it off the lot, You're putting your money into something tangible, something that can actually generate income for years to come.
You got it. It's about playing the long game, thinking about long-term wealth instead of those instant gratification purchases.
And it's not just real estate, right?
Nope. Kiyosaki is also a big advocate for the stock market, specifically dividend-paying stocks. You're basically buying a tiny piece of a company and sharing in its profits.
It's like having your money work for you in multiple ways, even if it starts small.
Exactly. Every little bit adds up over time. And Kiyosaki doesn't stop there. He's also big on entrepreneurship, building something from scratch.
Now, I'm not going to lie, starting a business sounds kind of terrifying to me, to be honest.
Oh, I get it. It's definitely not for everyone. But Kiyosaki argues it can be incredibly powerful, creating something of value, potentially building an asset you could sell down the line, being your own boss. It's all about leveraging your unique skills and resources to create a system that works for you.
So it's about investing in yourself, too, not just in the traditional sense, but investing in your financial education, your ability to make smart money moves.
100%. Kiyosaki is always stressing that you don't need some fancy MBA to become wealthy. You just got to be willing to put in the time, learn the rules of the game.
It's like learning any new skill, right? The more you put in, the more you get out. Speaking of learning, I gotta say, that whole people as liabilities thing kind of threw me for a loop. Can we unpack that a bit more?
Of course. Now, before anyone freaks out, Kiyosaki isn't saying to treat people like financial burdens or anything like that, okay? He's urging us to be real about the financial implications of our relationships.
So it's about having some honest conversations, maybe some tough ones, but necessary ones. Like thinking about the financial responsibilities that often come with family, with having kids, for example.
Yeah, like kids are amazing, obviously, but they definitely come with costs. Diapers, daycare, education, it all adds up. And it's not just children. Kiyosaki also talks about caring for aging parents, something many of us will face at some point. And those costs can be significant.
And then there are things like divorce, which, let's be honest, can be a financial earthquake.
Exactly. It's not just an emotional roller coaster. There's a whole financial side to it. Legal fees, alimony, maybe even having to split assets. Kiyosaki's point isn't to scare anyone, but rather to encourage us to be financially prepared, even for life's curveballs.
So being on the same page financially can actually strengthen our relationships, not tear them apart.
Absolutely. It's about being responsible, making informed decisions today to protect your financial well-being and the well-being of your loved ones down the line.
So much to think about. Kiyosaki really throws down the gauntlet when it comes to our financial habits, doesn't he?
Totally. He's all about shaking things up, making us question those deeply ingrained beliefs about money and wealth.
Definitely got the gears turning up here. But let's make sure we give our listeners some solid takeaways, some actionable steps they can start taking today.
Well, it all starts with that financial literacy, right? Kiyosaki's a broken record about that, and for good reason. Understanding those fundamental concepts, income, expenses, assets, liabilities, that's the bedrock of building wealth.
So, step 1, know where your money's going, track it, analyze those spending habits, no more burying your head in the sand.
Exactly. And once you have a clearer picture, you can start shifting things around, making your money work for you, not the other way around.
Which brings us back to those income-generating assets. We talked about rental properties, dividend-paying stocks, even starting a side hustle.
Right. It's about diversifying those income streams, thinking long-term. And honestly, even if it feels overwhelming, even small steps in the right direction can make a huge difference over time.
I think a lot of people get stuck in that all-or-nothing mindset. It's like,
Right.
oh, I can't afford a rental property right now, so why bother? But even small investments can compound over time, right?
Absolutely. It's about consistency, building those good financial habits. And speaking of habits, we can't forget Kiyosaki's more, shall we say, provocative advice.
Ah, yes. The people as liabilities conversation. Definitely a tough one to swallow for a lot of folks.
Right. And it's not about loving your family any less. It's about acknowledging the very real financial implications that come with relationships, with having kids, with caring for aging parents.
It's about having those open, honest conversations, even when they're difficult, because let's be real, money problems can put a real strain on relationships. So being proactive can save a lot of heartache down the line.
Communication is key in relationships, in business, in everything.
Absolutely. And I think that's a powerful message to end on. It's about taking control, taking responsibility for your financial well-being. It's not always easy, but it's empowering.
100%. It's about defining what financial success looks like for you and then making those conscious choices to get there.
So as you navigate your own financial journey, remember, you have the power to create the future you want. It all starts with taking that first step.
And never underestimate the power of knowledge. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep challenging those old ways of thinking.
Beautifully said. That's it for today's deep dive, everyone. We'll catch you next time for more thought-provoking discussions, and who knows, maybe we'll even shake up a few more financial paradigms along the way.